Sure.
Okay, so let's just start off with a consultation. I'm going to need someone to model, preferably shoulder length hair. I'm not going to do the color. I just want to use you as a model to show sectioning and things I need to do. You help me with that? Thank you. Okay. So go ahead and start with the
Look at her exactly. I already know in my mind what I'm going to do and what it's going to look like before I even do it. This just takes years of experience of being in the business and being trained all these years learning how to do this. So automatically I see her. Her haircut's already short. It's cute. It's a little pixie cut. It's cute. But what I want to do, or I'm going to do, is just on one of the sides, I take it really, really short. Okay, it'll just change it, make it more progressive, and then start building from there, trying to create that style that blends in really, really nicely. So, yeah. And as I go through the haircut, I'll show you what I'm doing, how I'm doing. If you have any questions, please stop me and raise your hand. So anyway, this is the visual of what it looks like now, and then when I'm done, again, it'll be short. This will be a lot shorter here, long length here, choppy, textured. You'll see the finished product when I'm done with it.
What is your salon called?
It's called Salon Industry. It's on Brighton Lane, Beverly Hills. Yeah. So anyway, let's get you shampooed and we'll get you started.
Somebody want a shampoo over?
I'll tell you one thing that you really need to understand, and it's amazing how many people in the industry have been around for years still don't do this. The hairline is different than the rest of the hair. Whatever you put back here on the roots, you do not put on, you go one level lighter on the hairline. The reason for this is that the hairline, because it's finer hair, grabs the hair, the color more. And so it gets a really dark, hard look around the face. Whereas if you go a level lighter on the hairline, then you get a softer look. And another golden rule, never put ash on the hairline. If you're lifting someone, especially someone as dark as her, let's say she wanted to be a brunette, and let's say you want to go in there with level 7 ash on her roots, you would put level 8 neutral on her hairline. Okay, so we're clear what hairline is. It goes back about a ½ inch. See that there? Put your head down a little bit. That's your hairline. The front, middle, back of it right there. Do this first. Put your neutral, or if it's gold, red, that's okay, just never ash. Ash would look so dark around the face. Even when you're lifting, trying to control the red, use a neutral. You guys got that? Okay. Another thing, the hairline also means all the way around, not just the front. Many girls, girls with long hair pull their hair up to ponytails, and if this section here is really dark and heavy, it looks bad. So same thing, the level 8 there, put a level 8 here as well. And go back a little bit on this one. Actually, I would take her hair, turn your face this way. I would take all this, and I would make that the lighter color. So that when the hair's pulled up, it's nice and soft. Make sense? Okay, you can do that all the way around the hairline. But the key is to do it on the front, and these back corners, and of course, the very back.
So it will be like one level
Yes.
lighter?
It's not always. These are guidelines. Everyone use your own discretion. One thing I always do, especially with a new client, when they come back to me, I check to see what happened. How did this wear? And in fact, every client I check. Before I send them off to get robe and I go mix color, I check every single color of my clients to see what's happening. Sometimes I notice that right through here, this region is getting darker than everywhere else. So maybe I'll make this a half level or a whole, not so much a whole level back here, but at least a half a level lighter so it compensates with the top. When you get women with gray hair, sometimes you want, I have some formulas that's one formula here and a different formula all the way back through here. Because the gray is more prominent here, right? So I need something a little bit more, a little stronger to penetrate that gray and cover it, but it might be too much for her natural hair out here. So maybe I'll switch. I'll have like in Schwarzkopf they have the OOs. O is neutral, OO is double neutral, double pigment for covering gray. So that might be great for where there's gray, but maybe I want to switch to a 7O, a single O rather than double, so that's softer through here.
And that still covers the grays.
Still covers the gray. Yeah, because sometimes the gray is only like 30% back here, where it's 100% or more up front. A lot of colors today are really getting good at covering grays, with the golds, the beiges. It used to be the case where whatever percentage of your gray, that should be the percentage of neutral that you put in your formula. That's not necessarily the case anymore. Yeah, sure.
I just find that most color lines are covering without neutral up to 80% gray. So color lines are getting really good at covering gray without using neutral, because in neutral you have every color in the wheel. So you're looking at warmer colors by adding your neutral. Maybe you don't want warmer color, so you're going to put a little bit more neutral, and that's going to create. Sometimes you don't even need neutral, and you will get 100% full gray coverage. So these lines are getting really good at covering gray, and sometimes your formula would be 3-to-1, because you want to make sure that you're covering the gray. So you're like, I'm going to add some neutral in my formula, but I really want something cool.
Yeah. Okay, any questions, by the way? Yes?
In the second would ash of the hairline, you mean in the party as well?
No, this is okay. The hairline is just about a half inch back from the forehead.
Just all around.
Yeah, just around the face and here as well. Remember, think of ponytails. And, you know, so another thing to think too, guys, is whether it's haircuts, whether it's color, anything you're doing, you have to have a destination in mind before you start. You can learn techniques, and techniques are great. There's all kinds of tricks you can learn along the way. But don't just aimlessly throw techniques at people. You look at their hair, you and the client figure where you want to arrive, and then you figure what techniques you need to get you there. If I have someone that comes in, and she wants to be a brunette, but she doesn't want highlights, but she doesn't want her hair to be so solid, brown on the ends. So many times after I put the roots on, I'll go back, I'll mix up maybe a demi, that has no ammonia in it, but still going to deposit, right? And maybe I'll take her hair like this, right there, thank you. And I'll take a big chunks like this, and I'll put the brown through here, and I'll leave out a whole section of hair. So
Can you spin her around so well?
Oh, sure, I'll do the side too. There you go, sorry about that.
When would you do that?
This is a brunette, for example. Who asked that question? Who am I looking at? They want their color on their ends to, to fill it in, but they don't want to be solid. Because that turns a lot of people off. And it's also just a nice thing to do. If they don't even ask for it, do this anyway. Because sometimes their faded color acts as a highlight, right? So I'll take it, once I'm done doing my roots, I'll go back. I'm just grabbing a random section here. And I'll do this. Okay, I'll wait. And I'll pull out, I'll color just those. And I'll go to the next section. So what I'm leaving out is that faded hair. Okay? So, you want to start with yours, and then we'll get back to mine? Sure. Okay.
Okay, so let's have a game plan where we're going, so you have to think about that. Where am I going to start? What am I going to do? So, now which side do you wear? This way, that way?
To the left.
That way? Okay.
And again, guys, anytime you have a question about what he's doing, no matter what it is, just speak up.
Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, just for effect, we're going to take this down the side, nice and tight and short, okay? And section it off. Your body positioning, standing right in front of it, okay? That's important. Now, you don't want to make it look like it's too barbery either, okay? You want to still keep the femininity to her. She's a female. You want to keep it soft and pretty. So I'm gonna keep some of this perimeter a little bit on the soft side. If I want to change it up later, I will. Okay.
I want to say something here too. What he just said is really important. Work with your subject in front of you at all times. Don't ever reach this way. Don't ever lean over. Stand in front of wherever you're working. Of course, a little bit of movement goes in general, but you want whatever section you're working on, you want it right in front of the body, and that's where you can see it, you can control it. Otherwise, you'll get lost.
So I'm just taking small diagonal sections and pulling it straight up from the head and cutting it, just putting the basic length in here, but it's going to be a lot shorter than this. I'm just taking some of the weight and length out right now.
You're taking your sections kind of diagonal,
Correct.
like with the face.
Yes, because I wanna
Here, mine.
see. You got to watch the whole time too. It's like, are there any like calyx here? Or are there any places where the hair, like maybe some people have scars there, which would not be good, because then when you take it short, you'll see the scar. And I'm just gonna go slightly right behind the ear will be like my section of cutting this short effect. And I'm pulling the hair straight out from where it grows. See how it's still soft there?
And Duran, at some point, can you turn the chair a little bit?
I'm gonna people can see what I'm doing. Okay, so this is a little softness. I am still going to take it shorter, which will probably be shear over comb, like this, okay? Which is a technique that takes a lot of practice to get really good at it. Otherwise, you'll see steps in your haircut.
Would this be a good place for me to go over something else?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Okay, one of the things that bothers me that I've noticed with assistants that come into our salon is the way they apply the color to the roots. A lot of people, when they're new, they want to brush the color. Brush the color. Makes sense. You have a brush in your hand. That's not really how you put color on, especially with gray hair. When I was training, the guy who taught me, he says, whenever you have gray hair, think of it as something that's breathing and you're trying to drown it. I know it's more of it, but that's the best advice he ever gave me. That's how thick you put the color on there. And it's more of you brush, you get your color from your bowl. I like to brush off the sides. I only have the color on one side because I like very clean work. I even keep a wet towel next to me so that if I smudge a little bit somewhere, I pick it up and I hit it. Again, bunch of details put together makes a really nice polished finished look. It does show. Eventually you will see the difference between someone who doesn't do detail opposed to someone who does. I'm a big believer in it. So let's say we do our hairline, right? Also having the right tools is key, guys. I got a smaller brush for the hairline for more control. I've had the same brushes, not this one, but I had brushes for 15 years. I wash my own brushes. I don't share my brushes. I'm bad. And never mix with the brush. It's lazy. It's bad for your brush. And with a whisk, you can get the color mixed a lot better. Okay?
What kind of brushes do you like?
You know what? I got these old Vado ones here. And what I like about this, to me, it's all about the stiffness of the bristle. Okay, I have a different brush altogether for highlighting. That also, it's a flatter comb, or brush, and the bristle stays stiff throughout the entire highlight. And I got 6 of those. Because every time I do a new highlight, I want a brand new brush. And that's the way I like it. For my hairline one, I grabbed the wrong brush today. It's actually got shorter bristles. I want absolute control around the hairline because many of my clients come in every 2 weeks for their color and they don't want their highlights to be touched. So you have to really get in there. I'll sometimes start with someone just had their highlights done. I'll start the color where I brush on their scalp first and slowly bring it to the hairline. Careful not to get any color on those highlights as much as humanly possible. It's going to happen, but the minimizing it is the trick. And I'll sit there, I'll wipe off a little piece, and it's a tiniest little piece, I'll take it off. Again, one of the many, many details that you're constantly doing as you're working. So, I'll go do my hairline. Let's just say, again, that's my hairline. And let's say that's done. Then I'll start this way, and I'll come down. This is my section here. So, there's the front half, there's the back half. This is pretty basic, I'm sure you know this. I will start here, I will go down all the way down to the bottom.
That's what I like.
This is more about just color right now. This is just for, highlights are actually similar. We'll talk a little bit about highlights later, but
Is that for gray coverage?
this
or
is regardless.
Regardless.
Now,
So you don't start in the back because oftentimes here we're taught that because the hair is more resistant in the back that you want to start in the back.
You know, nothing wrong with
You
that.
said regardless.
I don't do that. That doesn't mean that I'm right. Okay, so
But
maybe
you don't see any weird like things happening where like the color.
not really. You know, I don't really notice it that much. And I haven't really been paying attention to that very thing. But better believe I'm going to now. Yeah.
What kind of partings do you do?
For a basic color, okay, front half, back half. So I separate it this way from right behind the ear all the way over to the other side behind the ear. That's my front half. So we have the hairline We have the front half, and then the back half, I split down the middle this way, okay? And I work this way. I'll start the back half, I'm gonna turn you this way. When I start on the back half, let's say I've done the full front now, right? I've gone this way down, I've already done my hairline. This technically is gonna be a split like this. But since the corners are so small here, what I usually do is I will start like this. I will do that, I will do here, until I've got a wide enough section, then I'll split it and I'll come down this way.
I also think that it has to do with timing. If it's taking you a long, significant amount of time to apply your base or color, where Erik would remix 3 or 4 times for one client, depending on how much time or extreme it's taking him to do his highlights or putting on a base. If the bleach never stops working, your time is limited, and washing out, if your section is done, you have to take that off. Now, if you're taking a long time to apply your color is only processing in 30 minutes. So by the time you mix your color and you're doing your application, I think that if your significant amount of time is happening, starting in the front or starting in the back is irrelevant.
How long does the mixture, once you mix your color, how long does it you have to be done to stay true color?
Yeah.
Like
I would say 20 minutes.
20
If you
minutes?
can't, first of all, you should put about a color on in 20 minutes. That should be a minimum. All right, so speed is a factor, but not at the cost of technique. So I urge all of you in the very beginning, take your time if you need to. If you need to go back and remix, go back and remix. I'll never mix my end color and my root color at the same time. Because, especially demis, if you demi, of course, there's no ammonia. If that's sitting in a bowl for 20 minutes while you're putting the roots on, that color's done. All right? So keep that separate. I'm going to jump the highlights real quick for a second. I will, on a full head of highlights, I will go back and remix for the very reason that I hate wasting product, and 2, fresh bleach moves faster than old bleach and sitting out. So just going back and just say like you're mixing with 20 volume, you can keep it at your station if you're allowed to. Add a little bit more 20 into it, mix it when you get a new section, and you'll find you'll be taking off your foils real close to each other. Okay, that's a good way to speed it up and have to have control. I learned this when I had someone with really dark hair that wanted really tight highlights with no base change. And I used the same bleach from the very beginning to the end. And under the dryer, it took forever for those highlights to come up. Whereas if I use the fresh bleach into that new section, it just moves it right along. So having fresh color is really a good thing to always be conscious of, guys. But never mix your ends color at the same time you mix your roots. Duran, do you want to pick up?
Okay, so as you know, I'm cutting this haircut. I'm not really cutting a straight line. I like to point cut a lot. As you know, it's just blah, 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 blah. But that does just create softness. You don't have these hard lines in there. I went to BeautyHealthTravel where it's all about really hard, straight lines, So you do need to do that sometimes for some certain haircuts. But for most haircuts, you want, especially women's haircuts, you want a little bit of softness, a little bit of movement. You want to be able to point cut will create that. And also tipping it off like that. Create the softness. You look at the weight distribution, so you see how it's nice and tight here, but I got to blend that in. And you have to create that without creating a line there. So doing those kind of techniques will help you do that, achieve that. So I'm just working around the head to get this all completely, and I'm seeing it as I'm going, I'm playing with it, I'm looking at where I need to go in, and this is just visually, but it's also, you have to learn the foundation of where to cut, how to cut, and what technique you need to use at that moment, that time. So, anyway.
Okay, so now I put the color on. I've come down this way, went down this way, and I went down the back this way. Now we're going to cross-check. Cross-check is very important because you're going to miss things. The only time I don't cross-check is when I have clients that come in every 2 weeks who have this much roots. And if you cross-check that, you're going to smear color up their hair shaft. So what I do is I take insanely small sections. I'll come through here, I'll put it on the part, and I'm going to turn you sideways. And my next section will be like this. You can see through it. That's almost too thick even. Not even maybe a 16th. See how thin that is? Really thin. You can see right through that. because I'm not going to cross-check. And these are really important clients that come to me every 2 weeks. And especially when we work, I call our clients professional clients. They've been doing their hair in town for years. They know exactly what you're doing. They can tell by the feel of what you're doing if you're doing it right or wrong. Believe me, clients are sophisticated. Trust me that. It doesn't matter where you go, that's just a fact. Especially the older they get, the longer they've been coloring their hair, they know what's going on. So once again, just one more thing about applying color. Again, don't brush color. Get it on your brush and place it. With a slight movement, but place it. Brushing, placing. You guys got that? Okay. And careful to go up too far. If this is your line of demarcation, you want to go up, you know which direction I went. I take the top section of the head. Yeah. Now I'm not using clips when I have color because the color helps hold your hair. I'm just doing it now to show you guys what I'm doing now. Now what I do is I come back here. I don't do the hairline again this way. That's the last thing I do. I will pull it right behind where I did it. And I'm now going to make sure that I got all that color on that hairline the way I want it. Then I go back here to the next section. Now this is my normal color. It helps, by the way, if you're doing this, anytime you have multiple colors, have different color bowls. It's so easy to get lost. Oh, crap, what was that? Different color bowls save your life all day long. Since we went this way, cross-checking, now we're going to go the other direction. Now I'm going to go back, I'm going to put it here, and I'm going to take maybe 1/4-inch sections to half, depending on the color. If it's gray, thinner. If it's not covering gray, you go a little thicker. And I come back, and I just take color constantly. I'm just constantly reapplying, coming back. If it's real well covered, move on to the next section. You will find dry spots. And with gray hair, you will find little pieces of gray that you missed. So that's why cross-checking is really important. I go all the way around the head. I go all the way around, minding, again, if this color down here is lighter, use that lighter color here. Don't put the dark color over it. All the way to the hairline, and then I take the top, go this way. Because I went this way, now I'm cross-checking this way, right? Then the last thing I do is I very carefully pull all the hair back, especially those highlights, and I glove on the color. They will see it, they will be mad at you. So you go back to the hairline and get covered really well, and then a trick, I learned from a friend of mine, it's been around, but it's a good one to know, perm papers. Take perm papers, cut them in half, and stick them all around the hairline. What that does is it captures the heat from the head, but because it's a perm paper, it breathes, so you get the oxygen in there as well. So the heat and the oxygen, and because you put so much color on there, that's going to cover gray. The best chance you're going to have of covering gray. Anyway, Duran? Okay. I came up, I'm sorry, hold that question, I'm sorry.
Sorry, what was the last thing you said about the...
The perm papers? The perm papers, what they do is they lock the heat in from your head. So that, plus the fact that they breathe, because it's a fine paper, it's designed for this, it will get the oxygen in there that you need, because you've got to have oxygen to make it work. So with the heat and the oxygen and that perm paper covering it, it also keeps the color over that gray.
If I have highlights, how do I do it?
You mean, let's say, we're still doing a one process, right? That's what we're talking about, right? But you're saying if you have highlights as well in there, are you talking about doing highlights at the same time as you do a color?
No, I'm talking about retouching
the roots, right?
The roots,
so,
but this lady has highlights that I don't want to
touch. Right. So, always, like I said, always take care when you put the roots on. Obviously, there's no highlights on the fresh growth. Always mind your highlights. Be very, very careful. This is why I don't cross-check.
Do I use that paper also?
Yeah. Because
he's just saying using the paper on the
only in this area.
Yeah. Literally, like let's say my comb here is the end paper, right? About that thickness. It just sits right there. A little bit on the forehead, and a little bit there. And what it does is it won't, because it's paper, even those highlights there. If anything, it protects your highlights because it's laying over them now. So you're not smearing it, you're not pushing anything up, you're resting that on, just tapping it on so it just sticks to the color, and this will help cover your gray better. You don't need to do this if someone doesn't have gray. This is only for gray hair.
And actually get all the like tiny hair. Like if you have like, let's say her hair with the really short hair in the back, like how can you do it so that you actually get all of that like covered really well?
You don't worry about it. You slap the color on that gray. Look, if it's a little bit longer, of course you can manipulate it a little bit, right? Having a small brush, the bright tools, is very helpful for that task. When possible, I protect the rest of the hair. But when it's so short,
Yeah.
I just get it all.
Glove it all.
Do you have a comment on it?
Yes, sometimes I take my comb and I'll
Hold it.
Section and then hold with the end of the tail. You can use any, form that way. Take another section. You could get right up in there and not get any on the ends
Okay.
by using any kind of rat tail or a comb with your brush. You have, comb in one hand, brush in another.
Okay.
Cool, sure. Thank you. Sure.
Could you use highlights like gray? I did my ulterior yesterday and I noticed that when I did her highlights,
Face. And I do this on my mother, as a matter of fact. For many years, she was a high lift tint, then she got gray. So I started weaving in level 7 or level 8 gold and 20 volume to
what would you recommend for her face too? She's kind of a medium brown, but she wants to go up to
tell you what, when the class is over, show me a picture.
Okay.
That's got to be a visual thing. But after class.
I just want a real.
I'm going super short side again, but I'm going to leave it longer this way. So you have to gradually start planning that, thinking that out. What am I doing? And still make it look so it's a marriage and it goes all together. So the top part here, what I did was my guide. I took this short. I want this to pop up a little bit here to get some volume, to give some sort of a look to it. And then from there, I start thinking about keeping the length here. So I'm over directing, which gives me length. When I drop it, it still has length, okay? So that's what I'm working on now. We're getting pretty close. And after I get that, I'm just gonna go through and just detail everything. Just make sure it's perfect, okay?
Let's get her question.
So when I'm doing, if I'm doing the root shadow in some client that is really broad, what product do I use on some 2 and 3 so I don't bleed the root shadow? Because I have that where I'm doing the root shadow, she's almost white, and then as I'm moving the hair, it kind of bleeds a little into the blonde. What can I use to protect this part from bleeding?
So let me get this straight. What are we putting on the roots?
Shades EQ.
Shades EQ.
You can always use conditioner. Yeah, sometimes I'll put a bowl of conditioner with a brush, and I'll put my root on, and then in the foil, I'll put conditioner on the ends, close it, close the desired designated other color, so that it's not, the conditioner's not bleeding.
Are we supposed to foil when we're doing root shadow?
No, I'm just saying if you were using highlights and you didn't want to get on the end, or you don't want to mess the demarcation line, or say you're doing the root, you can still, take a little conditioner just on the demarcation line at any time.
Oh, okay.
I've got a woman who, after I put her roots on, she has me put oil on the rest of her hair, right from where the root, is exposed, all the way to the very ends.
Yeah.
And that protects her. So remember, guys,
Yeah.
don't be afraid to make stuff up. Just think about it. You got a problem, right? You got a problem. What's a solution?
Yeah, or shine, shade shine. Sometimes I'll put 9 on the root, and then I'll do the whole root, the whole head, and then come over with my 0 through the rest.
Oh, okay.
I'm always using either some kind of toner or some kind of, whether it's shades, permanent, demi, I don't care what you're using. I'm always doing something every time I use bleach. So you're not getting that raspy, bleachy look. You've then put either a shine or a toner, or you filled those molecules up with something.
Think especially blonde hair, think of it as peas that are out of the pod, right? And the peas are the actual color molecule. So when you have bleached hair, the reason why it always looks dry and a little crisp is because there's no color molecules in there. So if you want to put shine to her hair and make it look alive, put a clear gloss, especially shades, I love it, right? Put that over your ends. The clear gloss actually has a color molecule. It's clear. It's beautiful, right? So you always want to be doing things to your clients to step up your tickets, but make sure it's relevant. Don't just do it for the sake of money. You do it for the sake of, this is what makes her look best.
So would you actually do the toner and then turn around and actually
Why not?
do the clear gloss
Sure.
same time in the bowl, throw it right on?
Well, it all depends, I spent many years doing the ends at my chair and realize what a waste of time that was. And you know what? Also, I like applying end color to wet hair. You know, don't put it on dry hair. Okay, water will, natural pH, bounces out the hair, it spreads nicely. Of course, you want towel dry, you don't want dripping wet. But when you're doing the end, I'll spray it down with water before I do that technique. I always work moist on the ends, guys. It's just a smart thing to do. The only time I don't do that is if I'm doing low lights in between my highlights. That's a little different, okay? Questions? Duran?
I'm just finishing up. You saw me use my razor, which is actually probably a pretty feared instrument for most hairstylists. Really nice softness. You can take weight out, but you have to be very careful because it's a delicate tool. You'll end up taking too much off if you have to use it really, really lightly.
Are there any tips that you can give them on using razor?
Like I just said, you just have to be very careful with it. It's really sharp, and it's more for detailing and taking out weight. It just creates a real softness to that haircut. It's a movement. You can't be heavy-handed because you'll just end up taking too much hair.
You're so good. You're just like,
You make this haircut fun. You know, you make it fun for yourself. You actually enjoy doing it.
you can tell you're
Because I can't stress enough, take your time to do techniques properly. Speed comes with experience. As much as you want to eventually to be able to make money in your chair, you don't want to be spending too much time, but take the time in the beginning of your career to slow down and do things properly, and don't be afraid to ask questions to other people. I've been doing this, color for 23 years, and I still ask people advice if I get stuck on something or I'm not sure. Having a fresh input is very, very helpful. I had a girl that I told her too dark. I got greedy. It looked really good the first time. Let's make it a little golder, and then bam, it went dark. I got totally greedy, but I felt kind of lost. I panicked a little bit because no matter how many years you do this, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to hit dead ends. You're going to have problems. Lean on your friends. Bring them over for a fresh idea. Even if it's not what you're going to do, it might lead to an idea that you can do to fix it. I ended up just going back, picking up every single highlight because I have a pattern I follow, and I put a real mild lightener over all of it for 7 minutes, took it off. 7 minutes, take it off, and it came out beautiful. I didn't think that way at first. I was thinking, oh, maybe I should do a bleach shampoo. Maybe I should do this. I started panicking.
Your mind starts, convincing you something that you already know. And I just wanted to go through a consultation. Your consultation is going to be the map of your whole experience with this person. And when I was new, even in school, even as a new stylist, I used to do the reason why we do, color charts and head sheets is so you can put arrows and map out and do your colors on a sheet of paper. Sometimes I take my notepad and I'll write hairline color. Maybe I'm using really fine sections for the hairline and then I'm getting thicker as it comes out. Maybe I'm ombreing it. Maybe I'm doing balayage in the front and foil in the back. I mean, every single thing is going to be designed for a certain result. So you get lost and you mix your color and you have your color bowls that are different, like Erik was talking about. You're like, okay, this is my low light, this is my highlight, but maybe they're only 2-level difference, and when you put the color out into the bowl, it looks exactly the same in 2-level difference, and you're like, oh my god, I've rinsed so many tubes of color down the drain, like, oh my god,
I will throw a color out.
I can't tell which one's the 4 or 5, and you're like, okay, what are they?
When in doubt, throw the color out.
Yeah, just throw it out, start over, and if you have a head sheet, sometimes I'll map out a haircut with my head sheet and my arrows and know exactly where I'm starting, where I'm finishing, what tool I'm using. I'm going to use a razor in the hairline. I'm going to use my thinning shears at the, to blend the bottom. Maybe I'm over directing this way. Maybe here I want to do this, and then that way, plenty of times I've had extreme haircuts where I just didn't want to play the tape every second of the haircut. I just want to look at my notes and go, boom, I know where I'm going now. And it's an easier flow because when you overthink things, it will catch up with you. And I really stress, master something and move on to the next. Don't just go all over the map and really start, okay, I don't know what to do. Okay, I'm going to mix half neutral and half designated tone. Let's just start there. Instead of being this color master and trial and error, start somewhere and master it. I'm going to master my blondes.
Yeah.
I'm going to because at first I love gold. I don't know why. but I did. I think that colorist that I worked with was like, mix half of this and half of this, and it was like, okay, neutral and gold. And so that's what I really fell in love with at first. And then I was like, you know what? I think I like something cooler. And so I started mixing my neutrals with all my cool lines. And it's like, okay, now I know this result. And it's like, you know what? I want beige. So now I'm going to mix my ashes and my gold. And I'm just going to throw everything in the bowl. I'm going to throw one of everything in a bowl and see what happens. And it's like, that's how you're going to master in your own technique what you're comfortable doing. You know, and it's going to make an easier platform for you to get stronger and better and healthier into the next range you're looking for.
Any questions on that?
Are you using unblended colors so that you can play with the colors yourself?
Well, I know well as making a filler in your color where you can put this stuff in your color and actually braid the hair with 6 different colors and none of them will blend. So they're actually making that now where you can use any color. I don't think it works with bleach or with lift, but it does work with high lift or any kind of color, and it will not blend with each other.
That's cool.
So they are coming out with new stuff all the time to help us because we're so into balayage. We're so into just, painting and freehanding, and, we're not so conformed with perfect sections and foils and holding them exactly right. We're a little bit more open and creative now with, different forms of color. Just like her color or, any kind of pastel or funky color, you want to paint and do all these things, but you might not want the blend. Maybe you do. Maybe you want a pink and a purple and a pink and purple. So, you can kind of get there when you get there, but they are coming out with that.
This one?
Yeah, I'm just blow drying with the haircut. The way that I cut it, I'm blow drying the same way and where I want the hair to go. She's got a little bit of a flat spot here, so I want for a little bit of height, so I do the opposite direction. It's going to lift it up a little bit for me. So you got a little bit of height, you can see that right there. And then as I'm doing this, I'm looking at the haircut as well. So I need to take out some weight from areas to make sure that everything matches.
Yeah, so obviously your haircut wet is going to be a completely different haircut than dry because we're manipulating something with a blow dryer where naturally when it dries, you need to know where their hair is going to naturally dry because you've gone in there, you've seen their hairline, you've seen their talent, you know where you cut, you know the design that you made for their head shape and for that designated area. You can have 25 different haircuts in one head because you over-directed here and you scissor overcome by the ear and you left the hairline out and you have all these different designs within one haircut and now you're manipulating it with a blow dryer. So at the end of your haircut, when it's dry, you're going to go in and you're not really going to cross-check because you already have when it's wet. You're maybe going to take weight out, so maybe when it was wet, you did the outside line. And then when it was dry, you went in and cut the whole inside of where your texture is. So if your outside line was like this, and then you go in and you see your texture, now you throw an illusion in when it was dry. I do it all in my head, but I've gotten to that point. I know in my yeah. You have to. I have Google, so I put their number in my phone, and then you go to notes, and each client has a note, and I put their formula in, and if I've changed it, I put a date, and I put exactly what I've changed within the formula, or I make a note, like, I use 20 volume, I want 17 volume next time. I want a 9B in the hairline, and a 7B on the end, or you could break down, whatever system you want, and tell yourself. Like I tell myself, next time go darker with a question mark. because I don't really know how
do that
much
too.
darker I want to go.
Yep.
Because when they come in and wash their hair 50 times, it's going to be a completely different color than when they left my chair. So I'm telling myself to make notes for the next time I see them, and I know what that is.
Notes are important, guys.
And you do it by phone.
People use those
Yep.
little
You have a good little book.
Well, first of all, I'm old, but I do have a smartphone, but I like writing down my stuff because I like seeing it on paper in front of me. For work, I like paper. I just do, for my notes. So I handwrite notes. I got a little system that tells me this is your ends color, this is that, and it's something you can't really replicate in the phone unless you have a stylus, which I don't. So I like the book, something I can refer to. Also, if someone needs to do one of my colors while I'm gone, they can go to my book and, they have the formula right there in front of them. So I'm sure you can send by your phone too.
I used to write it down. Now I use my phone. But yeah, I used to have a hard cards in a filing system, A to Z. File your clients' phone numbers, addresses. But I just do it in the cloud now. But I got the cloud. You got a book. Nice.
All right. Keep pointing that out, will you?
Yeah, I got a book.
So, yeah, but
Say
notes,
that
I
for like a
highly
book.
recommend notes, guys. Especially at this point in your career, it's going to be, what saves you? It's so important for the learning process. And if you're like me, you don't have a memory, you need to have
I
notes.
tell myself things too.
Yeah.
And remind myself when I look at the card, I'm like, oh my God, I told myself what to do. It's like it's just amazing.
Well, also, remember I talked about details, right? Sometimes just changing the color by half a level or adding a little gold opposed to beige, that makes a big difference. And if you don't know, how do you know if you have 100 clients what you did on that person last time?
I do.
Yeah, look, you got that brain. I don't. But I recommend it. It's just, it's a good, clean way to work, and it will help you, big time. Also, I want to point something out too. She talked about a lot of freehand stuff and avant-garde work. As you can tell, looking at her, she's got style, right? That's her thing. People like that saying, I like to work outside the box. Okay, that's great, so do I. First, you gotta have a box with which to work out of. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you gotta
You
match.
gotta have structure to break structure. Otherwise, it's just sheer chaos.
Yes.
And the hallmark of a good hairdresser is someone who can repeat what they did last time.
Okay, so I'm done, I'm finished, and you guys saw what it looked like when we got started. Again, I'll go over the breakdown. We cut the side offshore, really tight, so it gives a more progressive look. And then we just kind of went from there to use that as our guide to blend everything. As you can tell, it starts going from really super short and it blends in nicely into longer side and front.
Cute.
Well, the thing of it is, I used to be you guys. I was you guys. You can do this. You can learn and teach yourself how to do this.
Okay, then I'm just going to touch a little bit on highlighting. Any questions, by the way, for Duran on this haircut? Okay, any questions? You guys are good? And feel free afterwards to approach any of
The
the...
haircut to pop up there. That gives it the style to the haircut. So I want it. You saw me. I'm with the brush trying to manipulate to get some lift there because it's pretty flat. So most people is just the opposite. It will always pop up there. But to accentuate the haircut and have it go with the haircut, I cut it short there. And then from there I went around and used that as my guide. So,